I love music. There's a song for every mood, an album to blast in the car or to quietly lull you to sleep. Music serves as the backbone of my memories, reminding me of beautiful, sad, sweet, and happy moments. We're lucky to live in a time when music is so prevalent, and we have so much from which to choose. But this also begs the question, as Christians, how should we be consuming music? Can we listen to so-called secular music? Should we listen to explicit music? If you're familiar with Think Christian, you know our tagline, there's no such thing as secular. With each piece of pop culture we examine, we strive to answer these three questions. Does it echo the gospel in some fashion? Does it evidence our need for the good news? Does it contradict our understanding of the world in a way that deserves a loving response? Music is one of the main topics covered at TC, and occasionally that includes albums that contain explicit language or lyrics. As Christians, we are called to use discernment when engaging with pop culture. It's especially important to remember that in the context of explicit lyrics. There can be meaning behind the choice to include explicit words in songs. However, this is not the case with all explicit language. It's our job to discern if pop culture is beneficial to us as Christians and if we can glimpse gospel truths from it. At TC, we do not disregard pop culture simply because it contains explicit words. Instead, we look below the surface to see how it relates back to those three pillar questions. God created the world and everything in it. In the wake of the fall, it is our job to help interpret all facets of this creation through a biblical lens. We use discernment to look for biblical truths and think critically about how messages found in pop culture could apply to our own lives and journeys as Christians. As Christians, we are called to be in community. The Bible instructs us to love one another, provide fellowship, and go out into the world among believers and non-believers. Listening to different kinds of music offers a way for us to learn about our neighbors. Music often serves as a reflection on life, a meditation on love, loss, and everything in between. By choosing to deliberately expose ourselves to different types of music, we feel the full spectrum of human emotion. We learn about the circumstances our neighbors are facing around the world. At first glance, we may be tempted to completely disregard the provocative work of someone like Cardi B. However, in listening to her story as she tells it in her music, we can also recognize how her work is impacted by her experience of struggle and abuse. We can also understand how she tries to use her platform to advocate that women be treated with respect and dignity. Chance the Rapper wrote, "I Might Need Security," which is centered around a specific curse word as a gospel-inspired protest song. Lorde and Taylor Swift have both written COVID albums that deal with isolation, loss, and loneliness, sometimes in frank ways. If we were to ignore this music simply due to its explicit material, we would miss out on an opportunity to understand the plight of our neighbors. How can we love and pray for those around the world if we don't know what they're going through? Music is a form of poetry, a way to express our purest, deepest emotions. We can find this emotional expression in the Bible, too. We can turn to the book of Psalms to find joy, sadness, anger, betrayal, and hope percolating through the words of the psalmists. In Inspired, Slaying Giants, Walking on Water, and Loving the Bible Again, Rachel Evans wrote, quote, "The Psalms are, in a sense, God's way of holding space for us. They invite us to rejoice, wrestle, cry, complain, offer thanks, and shout obscenities before our Maker without self-consciousness and without fear." End quote. In Psalm 77, the poet writes, quote, "Has God forgotten to be merciful? Has he in anger withheld his compassion?" End quote. We also feel David's anger when he asks in Psalm 55, quote, "Let death take my enemies by surprise. Let them go down alive to the realm of the dead, for evil finds lodging among them." End quote. Evans explained that even Jesus turned to Psalm 22 to express his emotions when he cried, quote, my God, why have you forsaken me?" End quote. She writes, quote, "When all hope was lost and the darkness overwhelmed, only poetry would do." End quote. In my position as a social media specialist at Reframe Ministries, I answer many prayer requests across our social platforms. Some of these are filled with explicit language. This is extreme language that we may not choose to use in our own lives, but those writing to the ministry use it to express extreme emotions. These prayer requests come from people who are deeply hurting and deeply feeling difficult emotions. We need only to look at the Psalms to see, hear, and read about such emotions: hate, love, joy, anger, praise, anguish. The psalmists yell at God, wrestle with their emotions, and put their words of anger into prayers. Perhaps that's why I connected so deeply to Olivia Rodrigo's lyrics from the song Happier, which employs harsh language to capture her romantic frustration. Even though we know we're loved eternally by God, the deepest, darkest, hardest moments of our lives deserve outlets and spaces to wrestle with our emotions. Not all explicit music deserves our attention, especially when it demeans, discredits, and dishonors God and others. Yet, there are times when explicit music gives us an opportunity to learn about the circumstances of our neighbors. At other times, it expresses urgent emotions, much like the Psalms in the Bible. Growing up as a musician, a musical theater kid, and a frequent concert goer, music has played an integral part in my life. I've turned to it in times of joy, sadness, anger, and elation. It's a place where I go to feel closer to God, both to praise Him and to sit in contemplation of the beautiful world and all the emotions in it that He created.